本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。What's good, Internet? It is Tuesday, August 3rd, and you're listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 415. It's August. I am Austin. Joining me today is Patrick.
August
Rob,
Austin? Is that
August
your,
Austin?
Is that your new?
It's the same. That comes from the same place. Austin is like a variation on Augustine, which is from Augustus. So it's all August. It's my month, baby.
It's all August.
That's right.
It's all
Patrick
Roman
Klepek.
numbers.
That's Ricardo Contreras. Rob Zachney sitting patiently.
Another child of August.
Another child of August. Are you a Leo?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Fellow Leo. Wow. The look Patrick's giving us is so good and so skeptical.
My internet's failing. I dropped out of the call.
Anyway, hi. How's everyone doing? How's August treating you so far?
It's nice and
Treating me
cool
well.
in New York.
Yeah, the heat broke here.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's like mid-70s. I could live like this every day.
I was in a park yesterday and it was downright chilly at times. So I was like, I feel like I need to go in somewhere. The wind is a little much.
I was doing work at a cafe nearby today, and I was like, this t-shirt is not warm enough. I should have bundled up.
Love to hear it.
God, there'll be
Fall
plenty
energy.
of time for fall. What are you all in a rush for?
I want a long fall. What's wrong?
Yeah,
Some people want a long summer, some people want a long fall.
Don't move up winter at all. Leave winter.
Patrick,
where
I
it is.
have great news for you about the future of our planet's climate. And you got to have a lot of great places to choose from if you like that good, warm, being baked feeling. But for those of us who are all about that autumnal chill.
I'm sorry I didn't respect the class of this podcast. And
No, listen, some of us are just of the larger persuasion, and the summer is a little hotter when you carry your own insulation, you know? And it's going to get to be beautiful. The fall, also, I just think fall is beautiful. I just think the leaves are great. I think the mood is right. People are like, oh yeah, it's like right in the middle zone.
Christmas.
I just love it. It's not quite Christmas, you know what I mean? And it's not quite the summer. People aren't like, oh, I'm running all over the place to like do fun stuff in the summer. We're just kind of like in the vibe, and that's where I need to be. I
hate
like
to do fun stuff.
Yeah, you know me.
Hang on.
I didn't
What's not
work
fun about
environment.
Moondance?
What's
Moondance is fun. Van Morrison, less fun today. But Moondance.
Well, Moondance, Rob. I think this is the only Van Morrison Moondance reference a human has made on a podcast ever. Unless there's some sort of, I guess, unless there's some sort of Van Morrison podcast specifically. So
that exists?
it probably exists.
His body of work would support it.
Right.
What about apple picking? I don't know. That's a fall activity, right?
Yeah, there's fall
That's
activities.
fun.
Yeah, I thought you were a Halloween guy.
Yeah, Halloween.
I am.
Let's get the fall.
I can multitudes. Can't enjoy both.
I enjoy the summer. It's just I've had the summer. I'm good now. Like I've had it. If we could make August the beginning of the fall. See? No more. All done.
Yeah, see,
no more.
Like a huge part of it for me is like specific to. I mean, I just like swimming, like that. Like I like a lot of the summer activities, but it's also like Delta, less things to do outside, like all of that. Like, you know, 2 children, like all of that is like great. Like, can't wait to be indoors just a little bit more than I already am.
Well, the thing is, fall. You need to understand that I treat fall like summer. I'm outside in sandals until December. Like
me too. I got look.
Like
sandal season lasts until there's a health advisory that says for specifically Austin Walker and Patrick Klepek. Sandal season it was over months ago.
You look
now,
stupid.
Your toesies are gonna get hurt.
Yeah, that's.
I love
thing.
going to a restaurant in October and being like, "Can we just like seat ourselves outside?" And and like the wait staff being like, "What?" And I'm like, "I'll be outside." And MK's like, "We will?" And I'm like, "Here we go."
That's the thing is if it's a crisp fall day or evening, it could be 50 degrees. I'll be outside. You know what? If it gets down to 49, 48, that's okay. It's good for the bones.
Austin's going to come up with reasons to podcast from like the forest with
God.
Rob.
Autumn sleeping too. Autumn sleeping.
Is that a Van Morrison song too? Autumn Sleeping?
Almost certainly by now.
Featuring Moon Dance?
Yeah, well, how's everyone's weekends been? I feel like this energy makes me feel like we've all had okay weekends at least.
Yeah.
Now I'm just hearing like a little harmonica riff and like when that autumn sleeping come around.
I don't know how to pivot off of this. I don't know how to move.
We gotta pay a band. I think what I'm hearing is that we need like sort of like late show in studio band for the next.
Is that
the next stream.
Waypoint Plus? Did Waypoint Plus get us a band? Is that on the budget? No. God.
Well, if we start doing more live shows,
okay, more live shows. We get a live band. Can we at least get guitar lessons for Rob? It's not too late.
I don't. Yeah, my fourth and fifth fingers don't really grip the frets real well.
Yeah, they're a little too
I know
fat.
this about myself.
I see.
Yeah,
right. People who are listening to this episode by itself without listening to recent ones.
Yeah, like why was Patrick so mean to Rob's fingers out of nowhere?
There is a context. I promise. And it's not mean, I promise. Or it's only a mean.
Well, it's mean, but from other people.
Yes,
from people running music departments for elementary schools.
Exactly. I haven't checked to see if we've gotten any follow-ups on that. I'll have to do that today.
We got follow-ups.
Did we? Okay.
I feel like we're trending towards a food bucket situation where we're unearthing a lot of music-related trauma from authority figures.
Well, look forward to that later this episode when I open up that part of the email and see what we can dig up. Unless Rob already has them marked. Can we talk about some video games? Can we dive in?
I want to hear about this tank.
Oh my god! Well, this thing is, Patrick, you're about to hear like the Hell Let Loose hour because we just did it. We just
that's fine.
We played a bunch yesterday in various configurations. Rob and I played in the afternoon. Then I did some work. Then Cado and I played in the evening. And then almost 30 minutes after that, another friend of ours, Ren, installed the game, and Ren hopped on with me and Cado. And that was the tank. The final thing was the tank. But I think just like having now played a lot of that game, not a lot of that game, because it's a first person shooter that people probably play for hundreds of hours, right? But like I've now played 8 hours of it. Rob's probably played something more like 12. That game's good. That's a
24.
24.
I was like, I feel like I was like that would have not have been 12 would not have been my guess. Right. I would have flipped those numbers.
I assumed Rob had like one really good 4 or 5 hour day before, but no, I guess not. I guess like Rob was in it. That game is really good, and I think like the specific thing that I want to call out before we tell Tank's story is just that there is like such a sense of place, and a sense of like scale that's happening in that game that doesn't come from that isn't just it's a big map and there's lots of people fighting, which you get from a lot of big first person shooters, but specifically the difference between like I'm a dude, you're a dude in a tank, there is a bomber overhead, and the way that those things like scale up and up is just incredible. There was a moment when we were playing, it was the three of us playing, and we were getting you and Cado, Rob, you and Cado were pinned down in a field from a sniper somewhere. Cado, you got shot and pointed out that there was someone up on a windmill somewhere, and who's sniping at us. I was walking past one of our tanks, and I just like used the local chat to be like, hey guys, if you get a second, there's a sniper up in that windmill across that field. And like as soon as I said that, at the same time I was saying that, Rob was calling it up to command, to like the big command chat, the voice chat that has all the different squad leaders, including the tank commander and everything else, that was happening. And I was like, if you don't believe me, you can check in with command or whatever, confer with command. And then like, I just you kind of walk your separate way. The map is like big and you have to get places. So I'm not gonna like stick by this tank. I'm gonna move into that field and try to find where Rob and Cado are and reconnect to them. And like just before I leave, earshot, basically, on the local voice, I hear the tank guy go like, you said that the windmill? And I was like, yeah, the windmill. And it was like, boom. and this like tank shell goes right over my shoulder across the field and slams into the side of that windmill and knocks out whatever the machine gunner nest that was up there for at least long enough. It makes him move so we can move up a little bit closer. And like that's one small little thing where it's like, okay, like that whole sequence. Think about all the steps in that sequence. In a Battlefield game, I'd be like, oh, there's a sniper, and he's like, boom. But there was so much like distance between every step of that experience, and that's kind of how it works. There's the way that it makes the command tier people, the squad leaders, and then like the high commander and the tank commander and the recon spotter who's also in those calls. The way that like that layer of information giving and call making is like instrumentalized as like that is a necessary point of friction, makes the game feel so big. And also like the sense of just someone starts yelling out the name of the Soviet rockets or whatever that are about to fire, and you just look up in the air and there's just this incredible swarm of contrails arcing across the sky. Is just you have time to think about it. Yeah, like yes. Like Patrick, it's hard for me not to just drop a bunch of clips I took into this chat, but that's not fun. Do you know what I mean? But
I feel like you gotta be there. Like I would not be able to enjoy the energy of those clips in the same way having not played it.
I think you would be able to get some of it, but yes, but it's just, I think that the visual spectacle of bombing runs and rockets, how small you feel in comparison to them is incredible. The thing that it reminds me the most of, well, it's pulling off the same thing, is the Jakub Rozalski series that like Scythe and Iron Harvest are based on. I think it's called 1910 plus or 19, it's like something like that. Is the name of that series that has like, you know, the big mechs out in World War I, and like it's playing on that same stuff. It's playing on that sense of the scale of industrialized warfare against pastoral spaces, and that game like hits that in a way that's like, oh right, this is already pulling on something that already existed. This was an invention. This is obviously a creative thing, but what it's actually doing is pulling on something that's already true about these spaces. Also, it's just wild. Go ahead, Cado.
I was just gonna say, I think one thing that's important to the like scale and like how kind of slow that chain of command that you just explained was, it has to do with the time to kill is both very fast and very slow. Like you only take 1 or 2 bullets. The like extra time is like honing in where those bullets are going, right? Like nothing is very accurate. And getting winged, you can still be picked up by your medics, and you can heal yourself with bandages, kind of like back up to quote unquote full. Like you only really have 2 shots that you can get hit. And a lot of it is like, you know, you hear shit whizzing by and you're trying to pin like, where is that coming from? Right. And like that it's like an extended time to kill, because like those shots are technically coming towards you, but they're all gonna probably miss until like the one faded bullet or whatever.
Right.
But so like that extra time there is the time that you have to be communicating with your squad, the time you have to be communicating with commanders of like, okay, we're getting information. Like getting shot and not dying sometimes is really great information gathering. I learned it's like I was really great at recon by just going out and being like, all right, that came from like the northwest direction, and it's like, oh, there's that fucking,
and that can be useful.
I do want to say though, I did get a kill in that first match, which I'm very proud of.
Congrats. It took me a few.
I got lucky. I was clearing a trench because I was like, I swear I saw someone pop up, and I did like this. I did like a circle around the trench, being like, oh, I guess so. No one's here. And on my way back to complete the circle, there was like 3 people down the other end of the trench all of a sudden.
And I just want to say, like, the map variety is really something special too, because like, so the map that the 3 of us played on, Kursk. It's one of the new maps. They just got to the Eastern Front in Hell Let Loose. At first, I think it was just basically Normandy and like Hurtgen Forest. But the Kursk map is very much it's based on the Battle of Kursk in 1943. Basically, the last German offensive out east. It's a major tank battle, but it's also a trench warfare battle because the Soviets dug in really heavily and were basically posted up and waiting for the Germans. But the map sort of draws from that because it is a map where tanks are absolutely critical to winning the battle, because in the vast no man's land of the map, it is just rolling like wheat fields and tall grass. It's just like meadows. And so it looks flat from a distance, but it's all full of like weird little folds and wrinkles. But then it's also cut through with like really dense trench networks and trench lines that sort of connect, but not always. There's like communications trenches running between them, but there's also places where you just have to sprint across open ground. And where a lot of maps are a little bit like infantry dominant, where like squads can set up and support each other really easily, Kursk is kind of a place where you can spend a lot of time just like running around trench lines, trying to clear them, trying to figure out like which part of the prairie somebody is opening up on you from. And
Rob's raising all this because our tank commanders were maybe less than adept at what their jobs were. They did shoot that windmill for us. That was about the last good thing I can say about that tank crew, because they then would proceed to shoot me and Cado a couple times. They played back in the cut in a way that you just can't do on that.
I woke up still pissed about that. Because
Rob related to them, not in a toxic way. He was defending me and Cado. They killed me and Cado, and Rob was our squad leader. And Rob got on comms and he said, "Hey, whoever's in that tank, I almost said the person's name because I remember the person's name, I think, because it was memorable.
Yeah.
It wasn't Ballsack, but it was a pun based on Ballsack.
Yeah.
Welcome to the internet. Welcome to video games. And Rob got on comms. Was like, "Hey, who's in that? Is that Ballsack? Hey, can you just watch your fire a little bit? You hit 2 of my guys, or 3 of my guys, whatever it was, and I can't hear the other side of that conversation. It's 100% like being on the phone, or being in a room with your mom on the phone, like calling up another parent whose child has done something bad, and like I don't know what the other parent is saying, but I can hear Rob then say, "No, listen, watch your fucking fire," and I was like, "Yeah, Rob, that's right." Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Squad Commander.
I lost my shit on that guy because he was like, I saw that. Your guys stood up in my field of fire like animals. And first of all,
what? That's not how.
That's right. That's right.
That's not how explosives
the thing
work.
is, yes, this is the thing. He hit you with direct shell fire, which means he's shooting the wrong fucking trench. And so, like, when I say you're hitting my guys,
there was absolutely people. We were fighting people, but that's infantry. That's infantry's job at that point.
Let us fight.
You're in the trench. You're
my boy. Let me fight these guys. It's fine.
Yeah, the thing
I got guns.
The thing the tank needs to be doing is denying the space between where the infantry are fighting and wherever the enemy is advancing from. And instead,
that's not what they were doing.
He just was putting direct fire on a friendly position and like killing the guys defending it. Then later, that same fucking tank crew rolled past us as we were the, I say, like, I'm not usually this guy. We were the only good squad in that game. We were the only good fucking
and this isn't even
in that game.
The numbers don't lie. Our numbers
don't lie. The numbers back this up. And also, it's not just me, Rob, and Cado. We had 3 other great people with us. Was that Dark Wolf someone?
Yeah.
Shout outs to Dark Wolf. Shout outs to Breddy. Shout outs to the third guy who was in our crew. I forget the third person. Those guys, shout outs to them. See them back at the base.
Yeah.
Nico.
But like,
with the bottom.
Nico. Yeah, Nico.
Yeah, it was Nico.
Point is, so the reason like we were effective was because we identified like, hey, nobody on our team ever stays on a point we cap. And so we're just going to stay back and defend while our team tries to get its shit together. And they never really could. So we amassed like crazy points just by being the only people focusing on an objective. But there was a point where we were holding one of the key, we were playing defense on a point, and that same tank crew rolls past, and a different dude, but it was the tank commander, just gets on local comms, where basically you're hollering people as you go by, and is like, hey, there's a bunch of infantry down the road behind us, like anti-tank and shit, and then just kept cruising on, but didn't advance to the front, just advanced a little ways further and stopped, and so I go back to check out what's back there. It is a ton of infantry. Would have been helpful for the tank to turn around and engage it, but instead our squad is getting bum rushed from behind with like 2 squads like rushing up on us. and we end up like getting pushed back, and I think we ended up losing that point.
Yeah,
basically because we were defending. We're one squad. We were already defending on like two from two different directions. Once we were getting hit from behind, it was like
over.
We got 6 people. Like we can only put so many guns in one place. But those tanks never like.
I don't understand
the
it
tanks have
because
to advance.
that night, I don't understand it because I don't think it would be fun to play that way. That night, Cado, Red, and I played. We did a whole map by ourselves in which I got to be squad lead.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you do it, Rob. There's so much chatter in your ear constantly from the higher ups, the other squad leaders, etc. They're just like, actually, we should. I want to pause. I want to pause and just talk about what the different type of squad leaders exist out there.
Are we going to talk about our guy?
We're going to talk about our guy because I want to like compare and contrast. I think I'm the lowest rank, which is like, I kind of know how this game works. You know, I know to build an outpost. I'm maybe too aggressive with where I put my outposts. That's to me. That's on the lowest rank possible. I think, Rob, you're very high up on that list. I don't know that you're as high up as the guy who we played with, who I was not in his squad, so I couldn't tell you how good he is as a leader per se, but I did hear him on squad comms, and his voice sounded like this, and he was always asking for command to drop a 6-7 in tile G7 or whatever, and I was like, he knows exactly what this, he's talking I'm gonna move up and put some anti-armor on that point. And I'm like, all right, you've been doing this your whole life, sir. Yeah, sir, yes, sir. He might be the best. But Rob, you're up there. You're communicating the right amount of information to the squad. You're not telling us too much shit. You're telling us, hey, there's a bombing run coming. Let's get inside. Or you're telling us, hey, everyone's about to push this point. Or hey, we're all gonna like airdrop, behind enemy lines.
Or I'm asking questions. That's the other thing. Is I'm like,
yes.
Hey, I didn't hear that last call. Can you confirm? Can you ping that location?
Can you exactly?
You are the upward chain of information as well. Like squad members can ping stuff.
Yes.
But it only goes on the team-wide tactical map if a squad leader maps it. So like you become a big part of that chain.
So you're like, hey, oh yeah, we saw people in a house across that field, and you send that up or you get confirmation. Great. We also played with someone who was very eager, but maybe not. Rob is shaking his head.
The dude was like,
I'm not going to name the guy's name, but the name was basically like Gamer Man 101. Like that was basically
it. Like a guy gets on comms and is like, "Hello, I'm your squad leader. Now I am rank 4, but I am also very bad. Don't be fooled by my rank. I'm not very good at this game, but I think we're going to have a good time anyway. I will do my best. But if you have any issues during the game, just feel free to let me know. I won't be offended. Anyway, I think we should just start advancing and see what's up ahead. That's what I think we'll do. But mostly I think we'll all just have a good time." And it was like, it kept going like that, where it was like you're about to take off on a plane. Like it was like the pre-flight, like, and if you have any issues or needs during the comments, please hit the light switch above you or something like that.
He meant well, and I appreciate him setting up that way. But when it was like minute 13 and the dude is still in that mode of just, all right, I'm moving into a trench, and all right, there's nothing in the trench. And it's like, okay, well, you didn't have to tell me that nothing was there. Like that, tell me if something is there. And also, again, he's just like not doing the command thing. He was doing the, like, I'm a YouTuber and I have to narrate everything I do thing.
It was, well, and we also were very patient with him because he was very polite and like very diffident. But there was a point where I just started to lose it on him because I was a machine gunner. Machine gunner needs a place to set up, and machine gunner doesn't have optics. So you can hit people from a long ways away, but you kind of need other people to like spot targets for you. And because you put down so much suppression, it's useful to shoot at targets even if you can't really hit them.
Yeah.
But this dude would just be narrating, oh dear, I think there's Germans off to the right. We're all in a shooter. And so right is not a useful term, but he's like, Germans off to the right. I think they're by that house on the hill. there are multiple hills with multiple houses in this game. And so just the entire game, he's making calls like that.
Which is fine. I'm not saying...
By the way, I want to say apologies for my misuse probably on that map we played together of cardinal directions. I was going off map layout. I never saw the compass.
Yes!
I did not
Yes,
see
you didn't notice the compass, Rose!
I didn't see the compass at all.
The map is not... Many of the maps are not oriented north pointing up, and so you have to check on the map what the cardinal directions are relative to the tactical
map. Did not see that entire match. I was making calls based on map orientation.
That explains why after you left, and Cado noticed that in my next match with him, he sounded apologetic. I was like, dude, it's fine. What's wrong?
No.
Like, you noticed it immediately. I didn't realize the whole last game.
The thing is, Cado, you were also pinging extensively, so that kind of mooted it. Like, I was always able to just bring up the map and say, like, okay, here's where Cado is pointing. So I don't need to worry about what like compass direction he was calling out because I can just see it.
Also, you're not the squad leader. That expectation isn't there. You know what I mean? Like,
officers are trained in map reading.
Rank 4 officers.
Yeah, the foot infantry certainly, or we don't expect that of them. But
the funny thing with that guy was I was playing a medic, and with a medic you end up almost like temporarily embedded in other squads because you'll just see like 4 dudes get hurt at once. You're like, ah, shit, I got to go over there and res those guys. And then when you're over there, you can kind of like chat it up a little bit. I mean, I gotta say, nothing's been a bigger boost to my ego as a video game player than having someone sing to me, "There goes my hero, watch him as he goes," as I go through and revive an entire squad. The people are very thankful for getting res because it means they don't have to run back from a spawn point, basically.
Yeah.
And so that was always very good. But one of the guys I came across was Waxer. Probably named for the clone from Clone Wars. And I was like, oh, hey, and he had previously been in our squad.
The chatty Cathy squad.
The chatty, yeah. And I was like, oh, hey, how's this new squad treating you? And he goes, it's better. And I go, oh yeah, is it quieter? He is much quieter. And I was like, all right, have a good one, buddy. I'll be over here.
Meanwhile, I'm like, okay, squad leader, I found a garrison over here. I need your help clearing out. And he's like, well, can you clear it out yourself? Maybe just toss a grenade in there. Machine gunners don't carry grenades. Just small detail. Like, can't do that. Dude. And I'm like, but also, I'm seeing waves of dudes respawning like 40 feet
Garrisons
in front of me.
Are spawn points. Yeah.
Yeah, so I am like basically running that gun constantly, reloading, hoping I can like re-up before they spawn a new wave. And I'm like, no, you need to get over here and help out. And could you please mark it on the map? And he's like, I'm trying not to clutter the map. I don't want to be one of those squad leaders who marks too much information down. I don't want to create information overload for anyone. So I've been trying to be judicious about that. But of course, I do hear you, and I can try to be better about that in the future. And I'm like, great, but in the meantime, could you bring the squad over here?
Sure, this person wasn't like role playing a too polite like this.
No, because he was also the guy who was like, I can't wait until they add the UK to this game later this year. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, your Blackadder ass is gonna do great at it. Like you're just waiting for that. Like, oh, thank God, we've got the 1940 British pack where they just get rolled.
God. So the point of all that is, I have to tell you that I try to be a tank commander, and a tank commander is like a squad leader in 2 big ways. One is they're in all the squad level or the full side level communications. They're listening to all the other squad leaders. They need to talk to everybody because it's like, hey, we saw a tank. We need your help fighting this tank over here, and you just don't know where enemy armor is otherwise. And the second thing is a tank commander can't do shit in the tank. They have the most important thing, but also the least important thing. They have the periscope, so they can quickly look all around the tank. I believe, Cado, you were driving.
Yeah.
Which meant managing not only directions, but also gear shifts, right?
Yes.
You got it. Listen, I'm not going to drag you for... You understood the premise of...
Apparently the gear shifts thing is fairly new.
Oh, interesting. Well, Cado got it.
it used to be way easier to drive a tank, but they actually made driving much more demanding, in part for realism, but also to kind of force the tank to become a team effort.
Right.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. And then Ren was on the gun, and that gun is slow. The gun takes a long time to rotate around. It's not, whereas the periscope can whip around. And so we're playing pretty well. We're like, we get up to the front. We get some intel on where our tank is. We kind of back up and like, oh shit, can we cross through this field? Can we go over this little wall? and I'm like a little skeptical that we can do it, but we get over it. And then we get the call that's like, oh, there's a tank right in front of you. And like, awesome, cool. And we like spin around, we go down this little alley, and then we find the tank and we just knock it the fuck out. Someone else shoots it. I want to say it was like a bazooka, like an anti-tank infantry weapon, and then we follow up and hit it immediately after with the kill shot, and that felt incredible. I don't know that I've popped that hard in a multiplayer video game, because it feels like 3 people working to achieve a goal and then you do it. It's like Sea of Thieves level. You shot down a ship. You know what I mean? Like, yes, we pulled this off. And so we're like, okay, but we blew up a tank right in front of us in such a way that's like, now can we get around it? And I'm like, okay, well, we can go over it a little bit. And while they're trying to navigate that, I'm trying to listen into the squad comms or the team comms, and someone says, okay, we got another tank out in this field here to the south. Do you guys think you can get there? And I'm like, yeah. And get over that first tank, get around the corner. And this is like, beautiful. I forget what map this was, but, beautiful European countryside, jutting out after a town. And in my mind, based on looking at the map, the tank was going to be out in a field to our left as we passed it. And we would be able to like maybe line up a shot and get it. But it was right there. It was right there. And I'm like, all right, the tank's coming up on the left. Get ready. Oh my God, the tank is right here. All right, turn left. Keep going. And Cado, your instinct. I understand your instinct.
Look, I thought when it came here, okay, as the driver, you have a very limited point of view. It is basically
you're looking through a mail slot.
Yes, exactly. You're looking just straight ahead. You have basically no peripheral. I catch sight of the tank in the field to our left when it's like at a 45-degree angle to us, right? And I see it and it's pointing slightly away. Now, I don't think it's moving. It looks still. It was not still. So I thought, perfect. I just park up here. Ren will turn the turret and fucking shoot them and it'll be great. Turns out that thing was going. That tank was fucking moving, and they did the right thing because I didn't realize how slow the gun moves. They turned into us. They had enough space to maneuver and just put
the barrel into the side of our armor and pulled the fucking trigger. This was like as close to a hit Z.
Downshifted. Parked us basically.
I slammed the parked us. You parked us next to an enemy tank.
And then you said, the second you said keep going, I was starting to upshift, and I upshifted too many times, and it just wouldn't start moving.
Done. And done. It's so good, and like that just won't happen in a game in which this is supposed to happen in a real way, right? Like that friction between our different perspectives is supposed to happen, and so like that stuff is great. It's so good. And then there's also just stuff that's just like every 3 hours, something truly gruesome happens on screen.
Oh my God.
We had someone, we have to end this
I have one more thing, but go.
But I'm saying we have to end this immediately because otherwise I'm going to end up just dropping clips into here over and over again because I have so many clips of interesting, fun things happening. But sometimes something just incredibly gruesome will happen. The first time that we played together, Rob, there was a bit inside of a house where we were like just holed up and there were, people shooting in through the windows, and someone yelled, this was my first kill, I think. Someone yelled like, oh, there's one coming around the left. And I like peeked out as someone ran right in front of me, and I pulled the trigger in a hurried, scared state and got him, and he fell over. And then someone else like who was like just to my right and like down in a prone position was like, did you see that? I shot right through, and then he got killed in the way that like the most this is just ripped from a World War II movie thing. And stuff like that happens just often enough to where it justifies all of the local voice comms. There are some kind of very brutal death stuff in terms of like, hey, an explosion will tear a body apart. But you mostly don't see it. You mostly aren't. That's just like not what your perspective on the game is. It's not Fallout 4 or Fallout 3. It's not doing the like kill cam thing. So you're not seeing that stuff. But sometimes you're running forward with your crew and someone yells out, "Oh, there's another guy with up the way," and then you like come to a T junction, and two halves of a body just slide past you as after an explosion goes out.
Oh my
and it just
god!
Takes you out. It's just the most like, and I love that this game can do that. You know?
Yeah, the fucked up part was being one of those bodies going in the other direction and just seeing my camera view fly into the air for an uncomfortable amount of time.
So here's my last story for Hell Let Loose for today.
Yes.
So I was in a tank the other day. Great game. We had a great driver commander. We amassed, like, I think by the time that game ended, I amassed like 84 kills on infantry and like 14 vehicle kills. It was just a ridiculous game. Team lost, but my stats were through the roof. So gonna get a very good contract next season. But we get in this battle with we're American side. We're in a Sherman, a jumbo Sherman, heavier armor but not a real big gun. And we run across a like German Panther that's been lying in wait. And dude, it's the fucking tank battle from Fury, where like we are opening fire, and at this point, like I am in there like calling out like driver stop, reverse, and like we're trying to dodge fire. Meanwhile, he's giving me tips. He's like, try to hit him in the turret ring, and we're just getting pounded. It's terrifying. You're taking incoming rounds, and you hear just like these loud metallic like bangs as the hull gets rocked. But we are just like pounding away at each other. And we are starting to, we're starting to, this is turning against us. And so driver's like, put smoke in that son of a bitch's eyes. Like literally the line from Fury. We shoot smoke in front of him. And so we're screened off from him. We reverse. He hops out. And because it's a video game, he starts like fast repairing our tank. Uh-huh. We hop in. And then we re-engage. We're trying to get around the flank of this guy. He's anticipated that move. We run into each other headlong again. And I'm like, driver, we're closing fast because we are just now basically jousting with tanks. And like our turrets are spinning toward each other, just opening fire. Watching this thing get bigger and bigger in the frame. I zoom out all the way and no, we're just like at point blank. And so now we're basically muzzle to muzzle opening up on each other and still we're not getting through. And I'm like, I don't know what we're just going to shoot until we run out of ammo or are destroyed. Our driver reverses. Turns so we take dead aim on the center of this Panther and guns the engine. And we hit that thing so hard that we upend it like an offensive lineman grabbing hold of it, like pancaking a defensive lineman. This thing is pushed onto its belly. I'm looking through the gun cam and like we have now shoved this thing up and I'm staring into the underside of the model. And the lens is actually clipping through. But historically accurate, the Under Armour is weak in this game. And so, like, even though none of this makes sense, I just start opening fire into the bottom of this tank. And then it just, like, explodes on top of us. And it's like Panther corpse, like, just sort of slides onto the battlefield. And I have a squad of infantry that has been standing, like, in a hedgerow nearby. One of them, like, gets on the little comms and is like, that is the craziest tank battle I have seen in this game. I've been playing since the start of early access.
Wow.
It was, I don't know if that was a bug or if he knew you could do that with these tanks, but it was utterly absurd and it was awesome. Yeah, tanks are fun. Game. It's a good game.
Tanks are fun. I really want to try Recon Sniper. I know, Cado, you're itching for a gun that has a scope on it.
God, please give me a fucking scope.
The officer class gets binoculars, and I felt invincible. I was like, I can see real far. This is
can't hit from far.
I can't. No, but I can see real far. That's like a superpower. All right, Hell Let Loose. That's Hell Let Loose. That went long enough. I feel like we should take
a break.
We'll take a break and come back and talk about other things. BRB.
Who's that guy on What's Up With That? The What's Up With That sketch who never gets to talk? I feel like Patrick is that guy today.
The great irony is that I'll be fucking gone. Hell can let loose, in
for the rest of
24 hours.
24 hours. Are we back? Is that us being back? That's us being back. Patrick, the Ascent is out. We both played it. I think you got further in it than I did. I played through the opening bit and then a little bit past that. What do you think? I would also just the context of what I said before we started was this feels like a very polarizing game. I've seen people really high on it and seen people be like, why does anyone like this game?
Yeah, the Ascent is a top-down shooter. It's on Game Pass, so if you've got that, it's useful that you can just download it, see if you like it, bounce off it, or get into it and move on. And I think it's on PC, and I always forget that sometimes like Game Pass is not, that can mean PC and Xbox, but I believe this one is on both. And yeah, it's a top-down shooter, has some light RPG mechanics, but it's more shooter than RPG. And I wasn't tracking too much of what this game was ahead of time, other than every time a trailer would pop up, it was like, damn, that looks pretty. And it remains the thing that like sticks out. This game has, I don't know if I saw on Twitter or was in a review, but someone described the Ascent as having an aggressive aesthetic, which I agree with, which is both like a compliment in the sense that, I mean, this game is gorgeous to look at. It's has like all these different moving pieces in this broken down futuristic cyberpunky sort of world. It's set on. It's been like a week and change since I've played the start of this game, but basically you're I think it's on a different planet in which
that's right.
There are like these different, like, it's a megacorp that runs it. There are these different like mini corps underneath it. Basically, like the megacorp goes silent, is like financially abandoned. And the only way that this place functions is with the megacorp's guidance. And suddenly all like the little mini bosses that, are working for the corp under it are left to try and make this planet function. And the planet, I believe, also seems to function on tricked slavery, which is that it advertises, come here for a new start, you'll sign a contract, you'll work your way out of it, and you'll end up with a new life. And basically you come here and like get shoved underground, and it's like, yeah, you signed a contract, yeah, you've got a new life.
Here's a wrench and a gun.
Yeah, but you're also like a slave and will probably die and never be able to buy out your contract. Right. And that sort of like sets up the world in which you, for whatever reason, are like the one person, not in like a you are the one like imbued with superpowers as much as just you just happen to be the person at the right time who like starts getting connected with various folks in power, and start unraveling like what's going on. Why did this the game's mythology has like different levels of AI in which only certain kinds are sentient, and I believe like part of the core mystery of this game is like, what's up? Okay, right. The humans went away, or whoever. There's a lot of different, a
lot of alien
races,
and stuff,
species in this game. But like the AI, like our buddy should like still be here, and it's not talking, and so that's part of like the core mystery. But like I seen some confusion leading up to the release of the Ascent. Was like, is this an action game? Is it an RPG? Is it a shooter? And I didn't know really either, and was just like the beauty of a Game Pass game is like, well, I don't know, I'll just find out when it's out, and then if I don't like it, it's like not the end of the world.
Right.
And yeah, like so I think that goes to explain a little bit of the polarized reaction is getting in and realizing, oh, this is what this game is, which is like primarily like an action top-down shooter, like I said, with light RPG mechanics, but it is unclear to me at this point how much of that shit even matters. I mean, you have armor, you have weapons that have stats, but like
you're
I have a lot
points into
you're putting points into a lot of different systems, and I'm not entirely sure how many.
It feels like you shoot thing die.
Yeah. I mean, but the game is like very specific and granular, and it's like, hey, like one of the ones I've dumped a lot of points into is because I often you start the game with like some assault rifles, so you're just like pelting bullets. It's like, all right, critical hit rate is like one of the main stats. I was like, that seems useful, and I can see the percentage going up. Like it shows like, oh, I'm going from 3 to 5%, like 5 to 6.5%. So I put a bunch of points into that. But I don't know, like everything else, like I don't know. I guess I'll put a little bit here, a little bit there, and I've played 4 or 5 hours, so I feel like I've gotten over the initial hump. And I just don't know how much any of that matters, especially because the way the game is structured is that if you're following the critical path, the enemies will be appropriately leveled based on what the game expects you to be at. But if you take like a left turn, just the same types of enemies will just suddenly be like level 18 and you're level 7 and just they will one shot you. And it's an artificial barrier, but one that is not particularly communicated very well by the game. And so I would just say like the game is really rough around the edges, and then it's going to come down to how much does the combat sort of like do for you. Like that this game lives or dies not by the light RPG, not by the loot that dropped, but like, are you enjoying the core combat? And I will say I am really enjoying the core combat, almost because it's kind of eccentrically weird in a couple of ways. So the Ascent is at first glance, it seems like a normal top-down shooter where, like, left stick is moving, right stick is aiming, and you can shoot. But then where it gets weird is specifically like its cover system, in which it is not a sticky cover system where you are going up behind things and like kind of shuffling up against the wall. You hide behind with the B button, and then if you hold, so right trigger is your shoot, left trigger aims your weapon. And like lifts it up, so like you're kind of like doing a headshot. And so when you're behind cover, you're using B to hide. And if you just hold the right stick to aim and then fire, you're not going to do anything. You actually need to physically lift the gun up in order to fire over a cover shot. And because you don't stick to the cover, it just kind of creates some sort of controller wonkiness. But it also makes the game really limber and fast. And like what you end up doing is like you'll get into a sequence where you have a bunch of enemies coming at you. You just kind of like roll, you could do a roll as like one of your main, maneuvers. You'll roll behind, a giant piece of metal, stick out, use the stagger fire, which is like exceptionally useful for like bosses, where you basically like a boss is stumbling at you and you're filling a stagger meter, and then like that gives you an opportunity to either catch your breath, sprint away, get pelt them with bullets. But like it's a lot of maneuvering and managing stamina bars, health bars. You don't have either. I mean, you do. I think you can be staggered. It hasn't like proven to be a big part of like the game flow for me in the hours that I've played. But I just find the guns to be like super satisfying, like the movement to be really satisfying. And I like that the kind of weirdness of the cover mechanics, and I like the stagger mechanic. It just makes it kind of a different game to sort of play, where I'll see a big dude coming at me, stagger him, roll out of the way. Even the grenade stuff is odd, where you click the left stick to so like wherever you're aiming, then you click the left stick to toss the grenade, which will frequently then kind of makes it a little difficult to control the character, because as you're pushing it, you may move them in a different direction than you intended. I often find that the grenade itself functions fine because it's mapped to the right analog stick. So the fact that you get a little squiggly with the character is not the end of the world. But for example, one of the main ones grenades you get up front is this thing called the shockwave, which stuns enemies, and it'll either go off by itself, or you can click the stick a second time to like trigger it from a distance. And it's just a little squirrely. It's like a little weird. I don't know, like that's kind of the whole game, but I have found it like the world building is bad. Like the writing is not good. I don't really care what's going on, but I find the aggressive aesthetic to be really cool to look at. And I'm enjoying the combat quite a bit. I just wish it ramped up faster in terms of like what you had access to.
It
and like
starts off so slow.
Yes.
And like all the stuff you just talked about in terms of like, oh, you can like hold the L button to lift the gun up. Like, well, you don't fight anyone tall enough to do that for the first hour of the game.
Yep.
So, which is like, that's a long period of time to be like, why can I lift my gun and shoot over these enemies? What is happening?
And like, why would you do it? Right. And,
exactly.
and the other, big
and you don't start getting like the augments and stuff like that until like.
I still only have one. I'm like
really?
4 hours
Okay.
into the game. Well, part of the problem was I expected them to be sold at a certain vendor, and it turns out they were being sold at a different vendor. They're also expensive. You're not really going to be able to afford one until a couple hours in. But I think it's such a critical mistake by the game. I think Death's Door, a game I finished over the weekend, also has this issue in which there are so many pieces that I like that I just wish were forwarded to the player much faster, because it ends up hiding a game that has a lot more going on. Like a game like this, even if it's not going to be a kind of a loot shooter in which you're dealing with dozens and dozens of pieces of armor and weapon variants, because this is not what this is. Like, you basically, there are certain guns that drop, and once you have it, you can upgrade that gun's level, but you can't customize like the clip and the scope, and like nothing like that is happening. Once you get the gun, you have the gun, and then you are raising like its mark level to make the numbers, the DPS go up, and it's whatever other stats it has. And you have these things called augments, which are these like superpowers, basically. Like, the one the game gives you off the start is just a really fucking cool looking punch. It is just a one-hit kill on like the vast majority of non-boss type enemies, and like that meter fills over time. And there's also drops that fill it a little bit faster. And what this game should have done was, like, you should have access to 4 or 5 of these like in the first hour.
Yeah, that's exactly. There are 20 augments in this game.
And
like,
you know what? And you know what you get?
Give me
if
a choice
you don't
of 3.
buy any in the first couple hours? The one, which frequently seems like the most boring. Which would be fine if you can have 2 augments equipped at once. And like, there's like, hey, this one-hit punch is kind of boring from like a mechanical standpoint, but damn, it's really useful. I'm gonna keep this as like my second one, and then I have no idea what the other ones even do, but I presume they are more interesting than purely just.
I've seen some wild shit from watching gameplay, and I'm looking at the wiki now, and yeah, there's a bunch of stuff here that's incredibly cool. If you want to deploy a bunch of spider bots to help fight alongside of you, or do like a stomp that launches people into the air and puts them into stasis, like there's all sorts of that's all this stuff seems way cooler to me than the punch. The punch is fine. It's kind of a fun punch, but it's not.
It makes sense for the point of the game that you start, in which like the punch as being like the first augment they give you. It's uncomplicated. You hit the thing that's in front of you. If the meter fills up, throw the punch again. All that makes sense, but I really wish the game forwarded more of that. And then it becomes just very easy because, at least in the early game, my guess is this game, the way it's communicating currency is that it seems like the first 8 hours, you're not going to have enough money for what you want. And then at a certain point, you'll just have all the money, and currency will not be an issue. But if that's the way they're ramping up the player in terms of access to the different materials and objects and whatever you can buy, I just wish the game allowed you to have different play styles earlier than it does.
That's the thing for me is every time I play this game, I'm like you. I like the aggressive kind of grimy aesthetic, quite a bit. But every time I play it, I never finished Ruiner. Ruiner also has a grimy aesthetic, cyberpunk like aesthetic that does not promise the sort of RPG build stuff.
It's just an action game.
It's just an action game, and you get more tools and more toys very early in that game. So why don't I just go back to Ruiner? What am I doing?
I kept meaning to play that game.
If you like this, I think you would like Ruiner quite a bit because you get a bunch of stuff to play with out the gate in that game. And it's a little more. It's a little more glitchy in terms of its aesthetic. Like it plays around with the aesthetic even further than this. And I think that's a fine trade if what I'm getting from the Ascent is instead a long tail thing where I'm interested in my build and I'm deciding, do I want to put points into the critical hit percentage chance, or do I just want to raise my overall like standard DPS? Do I want to get more HP? Like that sort of decision making is why I want an action RPG. Is like, oh, okay, I'll be a little bit different than Patrick's build.
Yeah, and I think
on HP and I'm focusing on damage or whatever. Yeah,
I get like no sense of that from here. I mean, I get, if I squint at, and use the information from your Wikipedia, I get the sense that about halfway through the game, maybe not from a stat level, the stats just sort of seem like, I don't know, put a couple in each arbitrarily as you like just sort of progress through the game, and maybe there'll be a couple that you decide like actually they're not very useful for how I play, but largely it just seems like that stuff could just upgrade on its own and would be just fine. But I do imagine you would start to get, like I do now have access to like 6 or 7 different weapons. Like I have this really cool long range hand cannon, like a long range pistol that I use not quite as a sniper rifle because most of the combat of this game is short and medium range. But it only packs like 5 shots, but it has fire damage and can shoot really far away. And so like my new approach is like, I see the enemies, I pop them from a distance. So even if they're more powerful, I'm doing that flame damage instead of reloading, because the reloading takes a long time, which you can put points into. And my guess is that would actually be a useful one to have pumped up, especially if you're using like low ammo weapon types. And then I switch over to the assault rifle, like pump them full, and then like throw a grenade. Like I have a flow, and I'm liking it, and I do really think it's going to come down to can you get far enough into the game to start to get some variety, and then even getting to that point is going to require the combat clicking enough that you're going to want to get to that point. And for like me, it has, and I think I will probably like the game quite a bit from here. It's got so many weird quirks, like, you know, you come to the different like sort of like cities or like kind of like hub centers and like pick up all these side quests. Like, cool, all right, but then like every side quest you pick up is like 15 levels higher than where you are. Like they aren't planted based on the character's progress. They're just here, and then in maybe 15 hours you could try and do this side quest.
It's also very Witcher. That's very like, you know.
Yeah, and also like the game does a lot of gating of areas, both from a the player has like this hacking ability that they can use to open chests and doors. You're upgrading that by finding stuff in the world, but then there's also things that are just gated through plot. And so like there was a side quest I was trying to do this morning while we were waiting to start recording, and it was just became clear, like I can't go through this door, and it's not one I can hack. It's a plot hack, and I haven't made it to that point, and the game doesn't stop me from being able to try or warn me. And the fast travel in this game is not great. No. You can either spend a ton of money relative to what you have early in the game for a taxi that'll bring you from point A to point B, or there's a subway system. But it is really the kind of thing where I pull up the map and it's like, just let me fast travel. Like, just let me even to the subway points. Like, just cool. Yeah. I understand it must be kind of neat to like walk up to the subway platform, hit X and get on it. But it'd be cooler is just like wherever I am, just like let me hit that subway button and go there. So this game is made by a really tiny team. Like I think it's like less than 20 people. Like I think it's truly punching above its weight. It seems like a game that I think if you were to ask like the kind of studio that made it, I think you would give it a larger team than it is. So that part is kind of charming, but yeah, it has a lot of obstacles that are understandably irritating. And I think will throw off a fair number of people that maybe should go play a game like Ruiner instead. But I mean, that's also that is part of the beauty of Game Pass. Consequences be damned on game development is like I feel like a game like this, games that are 6-7 out of 10s, but that would be a really hard sell as like a $30 or $40 game. I think this game is likely to find an audience like me that's like, okay, yeah, I get it. Acknowledge all the problems with it. And I think that's going to mean a significant number of people aren't going to want to come into this. But it's cool that like another audience can find it, and like the barrier to the discovery of it is a lot lower. And so it really is the perfect sort of Game Pass game, because I think you can maybe read enough about it. And it's like, that's better than the Steam system of buy it, refund it. I mean, I'm glad all that stuff exists. Like that's useful. I wish consoles had refund systems so that you didn't have to subscribe to a Game Pass to try a game. Yeah. So yeah, I'm liking it. The game is aggressive from its aesthetic to its gameplay, but I'm enjoying it. I
might try to put some more time into it. I like it's a genre I like, and I really just wish it came out the gate a little bit stronger for sure.
Yeah, I'll be curious. Maybe it's something they can punch up a little bit with patches. But I do suspect the kind of the game is the game. I've seen the developers on different forums and saying like they're working on things, but I don't expect this game to significantly change, over time. It'll be more, the glitches. Like I had an instance this morning where the pathfinding for a quest where it's like, hey, the maps themselves are not very memorable. So you're spending a lot of time, and they're huge. So you're spending a lot of time just like going from random area to random area, just following the red glitchy arrow to take you there. And that's fine. It's not fine, but like it works. And then like the quest I was trying to do this morning, like the red arrow just goes into a wall. I tried to like switch it, like go to another quest, see if I could get it to like remap it. And it wasn't working. So I'll just move on to the next main one and come back. But yeah, that's the Ascent. I think it either will click and it'll click pretty hard, or you look at it and go, I don't understand why people are playing this game. And then, so I see the critical reaction to the game, and I just happen to fall on one end of it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Cado, are you keeping up with your Ace Attorneying?
Yeah, Yeah,
Give
slowly.
me updates from the realm of I don't even know. Is that England at this point? Did you make it to England?
Not yet. I'm still on a boat.
Okay.
I'm stuck on a boat. But I did get to one of the newer mechanics in this game where there's kind of a little mini trial. So most of the trials in the Phoenix Wright series, you're looking for contradictions in someone's witness testimony, presenting evidence to, say that there's a contradiction there. And usually that was kept to just when you get to the trial section.
Yeah.
Now they're throwing in that sort of contradiction finding in the investigation phase, because you have Sherlock Holmes, who does not make good observations, right? So he basically, there's this like, what is it called? It's like, it has like a very flashy like title screen. It's like the Great Deduction, and then Sherlock Holmes goes through a bunch of statements. They're all pretty obviously wrong, but you have to have some piece of evidence to contradict and like figure out what is actually going on in the scene so that you get further evidence down the line.
This is the thing where he's like, aha, I see, because because they have a beard, clearly they're Russian or whatever.
Right.
And you're like, okay, well, you've taken a huge leap of logic.
Yeah.
Let me undermine that leap of logic.
Yes.
Because you're only getting it half right.
Right.
Basically.
Exactly. And that bit is really fun. It's very, like most of the comedy in the series, it's very playful and over the top. And you do this, it gets called a dance. You do this like very funny, like twirling about the room is how they describe Sherlock Holmes making these deductions. But then you kind of join him in his corrections, like on the screen. Like just the presentation of it is it's very cute. You're all like, you end up back to back, like making like little snapping poses, like pointing things out. It's fun. It's really neat that they got another way to make the investigations pass. Like usually you look at a room and you're just like, oh, all right, I have to like look at every point of interest on the thing and I'll get information and maybe I'll present some of this to a character who's sitting here. But you rarely had to, apart from like examining a thing and turning it around, you rarely had to like do much in investigations to kind of get more information. It was just kind of like gathering time, And this is just like a fun way to like, all right, like we're tossing in a little, and it's obviously much shorter than a trial. It's only like four different statements that you have to contradict. But yeah, it's neat, and I'm excited to get further in and see how they expand this. It feels like this has a much longer. This has had a much longer on ramp than any of the other games because there's so many different mechanics. Like usually by the second case, you're kind of out of tutorial mode in these games. But for this one, it's like I'm still getting like new mechanics kind of added on instead of now we have the mechanics in place. Let's up the difficulty of the puzzling of the deduction of the of the logic that you're doing. So it's still pretty easy for the moment, but I'm curious to see where it heads from here. They're also very like it's like there's 5 chapters in this game, and I'm like halfway through chapter 2, and so, I mean I've played I don't know how many hours. I don't know. It just feels very long. Like I feel like I'm not fully in the game yet because I'm still being tutorialized on things, which is a weird thing for this type of game because it's very narrative focused. I feel like generally, like after they explained how trials worked, that in like the first case you're good to go normally. There's like 1 or 2 investigation things they introduce later on, but you're like it feels like you're rolling. And this one's taking a little bit longer to get to that moment, but I think it'll be good.
Awesome. Well, keep us updated. Cado, Rob, I know that you also have now checked out some Chernobylite.
Yeah. I might want to get into that more on Thursday because I think here's what I will say. This game very self-consciously is presenting itself as in the Stalker tradition, and in terms of its aesthetic and the references it's drawing from, it's hitting all the highlights of Chernobyl exclusion zone landmarks. But the thing that is different about it, and I'm really not sure how I feel about it yet, is it's very much kind of a almost a run-based game where you have a central hub location, and then each day you choose what mission you're going to undertake, and you try to gather resources so you can craft new shit and take care of your NPC crew that is helping you on this mission. You are a scientist who has some connection to the nuclear power plant, and you are on this weird quest. You are trying to find your lost love, Tatiana.
Yeah.
And it is unclear
it's
whether...
very Silent Hill out the gate, except Tatiana is like a constant presence in your ear in a way. But like the opening is like, let's go to our special place, where the nuke went off. Like, I thought we were going to a special little town. Why does it have to be the heart of a cursed nuclear power plant, Tatiana?
Yeah, and so that's kind of the thing, is it's unclear whether your character is just whether he really is on the right track here, because there are magical happenings in the opening of the game.
Truly magical.
This magic material, Chernobylite, has like allowed wormholes to open up, and there are now dimensions that are accessible that were not before. But also, there's a lot of people who think your character, Igor, is just out of his mind with grief and is on a completely doomed and reckless quest to resurrect someone who's been dead for years. And in the context of that, you are trying to put a crew together to help you on your quest, and you have to both house them, feed them, send them on missions to gather resources on their own, while you run around and do stalker shit, sneaking around and basically gathering up a lot of crafting materials so you can advance the story. And I'm not sure what I think of that loop yet, and that's kind of the thing. Like, so far I think it's a little bit flat. It's a lot of like scan the environment, Assassin's Creed style, and just like
a ping that like I just hoover up all the herbs and chemicals and fuel you got, buddy. I don't know. It scratches an itch for me. It feels a lot like a single player. I think I said this before. Like a single player Tarkov, in which I'm just like, all right, I'm going to go out on a run and see what I bring back, and I'm enjoying that loop so far. But I think you and I are probably both very early in that loop at this point. Have you gotten to the first big choice in the game? The what to do about the Duga?
No, I'm like literally right before we podcasted, I was coming up on that.
Okay, we should do that mission, because you should do that mission, and then before you make your decision, we should coordinate and do different decisions. Is what we should do.
All right.
Yes. Because it's like a big choice, in a kind of fun way. So. Oh,
also, I will say that an endearing thing. First thing you have to do in the game is decide: do you just want to hear the dialogue when you're talking to characters, or to build empathy? Do you want to see this? And literally the game is like, to build empathy. Would it help you if we showed you this photo of what the character would look like if they were not wearing their stalker gear and were just a video game character model? And they're like, the choice is yours. I was like, sure, I want to see what the characters look like. I regret that, because I'm pretty sure they took 2 pictures of Kelly O'Coin from Billions and The Americans and many other things, and like in one they put a like Bane mask on him, and in the other they just put like a stalker hood on him, and we're like, this is your pal Oliver. He's your top stalker bro, and it's like. It's just a static little picture where it's like a little popsicle stick character, where it's like, to help you connect to these characters. What about this little popsicle stick man?
What's so funny is you get to not just choose, do you see them or not? You get to choose how often you see them. You could choose like all the time, just show me him all the time. You can choose not at all, or you can choose like when it's important. When it's like the real shit, when we're really getting into it, we're really cutting it up. Show me his face then.
What weird.
It's so good.
Huh.
It's actually it's
very endearing.
It doesn't have any emotion, right? It's like a still completely still image.
It's a still photo.
Great,
there are characters you meet who don't have on masks who will like emote and talk at you.
Sure.
They're in the world, but yes, during your little missions and runs.
What a weird choice. That's because it feels like them being kind of anonymized by the mask feels like it's right for the setting, and
it's very much like what was wrong with Stalker? Everyone was wearing those masks. Obviously they have to wear the masks because it's the exclusion zone. But what if you could see the face under the mask?
Yeah.
What if you could
I just
find
wonder what led them to that
Yeah.
that choice, right? Like there must have been.
You have like a character designer who's like, I love making all this armor and stuff, but like, what do the people look like? I want to. What's your crew?
And then how does it get written that way? I mean, like,
I think part of it really is this is a game about building a heist team, like to the degree that your base has a whiteboard on that says heist crew.
Good.
Which means already
great.
This guy's living the dream.
He's living the fucking dream.
Just hanging with your boys in the exclusion zone, going on heists. To live that life.
You're looking to recruit up a crew, like a large crew that all have different specialties. And so I get that you're like, at some point in that process, you're like, all right, this person wears like a whole ghillie suit all the time, but it has like a big beard under there. So you're going to give me the beard guy, whatever it is. And so I get that that's probably part of it. And then you have those designs and you're like, well, what are we going to do? Not put these designs in the
how
game?
do you convey the different personalities of the characters?
Exactly.
I don't know. Get Steven Soderbergh on it. Give me my Chernobyl heist film.
See, this is he already nails Solaris. I think he can.
Fuck.
I think he's ready to take on Stalker, as a whimsical heist movie.
Oh boy, these
these are some of the people you recruit here.
All right,
I'm a big fan of Mikhail, who just has
there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people kind of looking over their shoulder a little bit. Like, why is everyone turning
it's
dynamic.
To the? It gives you
to the town portrait and artists like
You see? You see? We should both try to play some more of this week and go deep on it once Patrick's gone and can't stop us from doing this.
I downloaded this game too, so I'll probably
all right,
join
let's
you.
go. Chernobylite 101.
Chernobylite 101.
We have a different 101 in mind. It's not the next one. It's not Chernobylite, but shout out to Chernobylite. All right, let's. I think we should just jump into the question bucket with our remaining time. I feel like we have a lot of stuff to hit on here. Gaming@vice.com is the address. Before we get into the band stuff, I do want to raise this one from Christopher, who wrote in to add on to we had someone write in who was like, hey, how do I get into roguelikes? I'm so like failure. I feel bad when I die in video games. How do I not feel so bad when that happens? Do you have any tips? And I think we all got very like big picture philosophical, like level 2 on it. You know what I mean? Like we jumped to big answers instead of sticking in the realm of just like, hey, here's a very fundamental thing. And so Christopher writes, hello, Waypoint crew. I'm writing in response to the recent question bucket asker who could play roguelikes or Souls-likes because of their anxiety over losing progress. I don't know if it will help, but over the past few years, I have addressed this very thing in my own life. For me, the thing that helped me was to redefine what progress meant. A lot of times, progress for me doesn't have to be an actual end to a level or a challenge. Sometimes it can just mean knowledge. This probably seems esoteric, so let me give examples. I love challenging platformers, so it makes sense that I would eventually find myself getting into super difficult Super Mario World ROM hacks, called within the community Cado hacks. These games require extremely specific inputs from players to perform a series of tricks to achieve progress. A Cado level could take 30 to 45 seconds to play from beginning to end, but it will likely take multiple hours to grind out how to beat it. It can seem really frustrating to figure out a trick only to instantly die on the next trick and have to go back to the beginning. What I realized, though, is that each time I nailed that first trick, I got better and better at it. Eventually, I could hit two or three tricks in a row without really thinking about it. For me, earning this knowledge became progress. It was easy then to translate this into Dark Souls games. Yes, I may die on a boss multiple times, but each time I died, I learned a little bit more about what I needed to do to win, and that was enough. Additionally, this philosophy allowed me to finally get into a genre of games I always wanted to play, sim/strategy games. In these games, it's not unusual to spend 20 or 30 hours in one game, only to lose it all at the end game. In subsequent games, though, I find myself able to achieve the same points faster because I've learned more about game mechanics. This is also now progress to me. Anyway, sorry for the long letter. This is an important issue to me, and while I think affects more people than anyone realizes, I hope my answer can help some of them figure it all out. Yeah, I think like that's almost like a given for I think the way we think about this stuff, to the degree that we didn't even raise it during that conversation. But that's like that's the whole thing, right? You're making small progress all the time. I think a lot about how at the end of all of our bad Kerbal runs, when I was streaming Kerbal or doing Kerbal videos with Giant Bomb, Alex would stop and say, like, okay, what did we learn? Every time a rocket blew up, what did we learn? And you can do that in these games, and because you almost always learn something.
I mean, that was part of the whole reason. Like I streamed like the start of my journey with Spelunky to what I considered the end was like I streamed every day. I didn't play it unless I was streaming, and the whole like idea behind that was like I want you to see the arc play out in real time with me. And like Spelunky is a game in which you can do like, all right, what did we learn? And it's like, oh, I didn't realize this object had this interaction with this object. So even though we only made it to the first area of the jungle, well, we know that now, and we can add that to the list of things that we know about this game. And that is progress, even if it doesn't make, I haven't made it to the caves on that run. And like that is it's a different mode of thinking about a game, especially because so many video games are, for understandable reasons, I enjoy these part about games too, like they track it for you. Like, hey, even in a game in which progress is not necessarily linear in a standard fashion, we are going to categorize, we're going to find other ways to market for you so you get the feeling of progress. And I mean, they technically exist in a game like Spelunky where when you kill a new enemy, it gets added to your encyclopedia. But like that quickly is no longer, like at a certain point, that is not, you've killed that enemy before. It's not going to get added to the encyclopedia again. And actually what you're learning is the physics routines of an area and things like that. So it's just a different way of not progress in a video game. But I thought I didn't like that stuff until games like Dark Souls and Spelunky specifically turned it into like the type of game that actually, is now one of my favorites. But it required like a different mode of thinking to get there.
Yeah. Next one here from Alex, still not in the music bucket stuff yet. This is the gifts bucket. Dear Waypoint crew, the recent question bucket discussion between Nespresso and Cado's inability to lie to family about bad gifts has brought back a memory that I wanted to share with y'all. November, circa 1998. Sometime around Thanksgiving, my family were spending some time with my grandma, and she asked my siblings and I, a 14-year-old, what we wanted for Christmas. American Doll clothes for my sister, a basketball goal for my brother, and having just seen a TV ad for it during the break of what I assumed was a 13 Days of 007 marathon, I jokingly said that I wanted a Tickle Me Elmo. We all had a good laugh, and then I gave my real wish, Ocarina of Time on the Nintendo 64. I moved on. Joke forgotten. Fast forward to Christmas morning, and my whole family, aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody is in my grandmother's living room opening presents one at a time. The expectation being that we would show the gift to everyone and thank the gift giver before moving on to the next person. The American Girl clothes and the basketball goal were there among the piles of discarded wrapping paper. My turn comes up. My whole family is watching. I'm practically vibrating in excitement, knowing I'm moments away from retrieving the Master Sword and saving Hyrule. I said, wait a minute. I know what N64 game boxes look like, and even the wrapping paper. This gift is decidedly not N64 game size. So, it's pretty hard to fake excitement about a talking stuffed animal for 4-year-olds when you've been talking video games with your cool cousin all morning. And I ended up having to apologize to my grandma for blurting out, "What the hell is this?" in front of everyone. I kept that Tickle Me Elmo on my shelf for years as a reminder to either specifically ask for the things I wanted in life or to keep my mouth shut. Thanks for listening.
Oh,
that's what you get.
Wow.
Should have made a joke.
Oh, my mom, when I think it was Mortal Kombat 1. Mortal Kombat 1 came out for Super Nintendo, and we were very into Mortal Kombat, and we'd pre-ordered it at Funko Land. We'd done the whole thing. Came home from school. And we're just like, my mom had told me, like, I'll go and pick up the pre-order. It'll be here when you get home. Have your friends come over. And we got home and we're like, okay, where is it? And she's like, it's sold out. Something got goofed up with the pre-order.
Oh.
I don't know. I'm really sorry. And crushed. Just destroyed. And she let it linger for like a long minute. And she's like, could you get me something out of the cabinet? And yeah. Open the cabinet. There's the fucking thing.
Yeah. Nailed it.
I was like, oh,
got him.
I love you, Mom. That rules. I'm going to do that to my kids constantly. That's great.
That's very good.
That was a good joke.
All right. I think it's time to jump into the Oh, good. Okay.
Oh wow! Look who's mastered the recorder between this episode and last.
There we go. There we go. Can I Hell Let Loose? That's the game called, right? Can I play an instrument? Can I be like
you can join the
bard?
military band. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think if you get on squad comms, people will love if you're just like tootling away.
I will say it would
clarion
be
call.
funny. Yeah, it would be very fun. I see you have been doing the New York Times crossword puzzle. It would be funny to roll through like up to the front with local voice comms on, blaring "Careless Whisper." That would be incredible. Just hearing it coming over the hill. What's that noise? Oh, that's Baker Squad's tune. They're here.
Oh shit!
Baker Street begins to play. Actually, oh shit! Baker's coming.
All right,
that's Baker's music.
we've got approximately 1 billion people wrote in about this from various perspectives.
All right,
we have more people who wrote in and said, "Hey, I wasn't allowed to play this, and my teacher said my face was weird." And then years later, they found out that I had extra bones in my face that I had to get surgically removed. Said one person.
What?
All right, so we got like, yeah, okay. We had one person write in and say, I'm just going to summarize the kind of these ones. This was from Flint. Flint said basically, in 4th grade, I chose trumpet. Okay, actually, I should set up Flint's. Flint grew up with a toy xylophone with hollow metal tubes, and they discovered that they could get the tubes to make the sounds with their mouth instead of the mallet. And so it was basically each one was a trumpet that they could play that had one note. And so when they got to band, they were ready. And instead of doing the thing where you were disallowed from joining a thing, their elementary school band and middle school band were just wildly unbalanced. So you would just have a bunch of trumpeters.
That rules.
And the teachers would just say, play quieter to get different degrees out of the different instruments.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you just have to play quiet. Anyway, so we did get some stuff in here from Danielle, by the way. Shout out to Danielle. Danielle was the person who wrote in to say that she had extra bones in her face that she learned about later. All right. Here's some stuff this is from okay. Evan from North Dakota. I work at a music store chain that works directly with music teachers to rent instruments to families with students starting in band. A lot of time, the band directors are very busy, so we are often brought in to set up instrument testing stations. I could go through how much of a nightmare it was trying to do these during COVID. We're in the Midwest, where most of our schools just tried to soldier through the whole thing. But I can tell you how we help band directors decide who gets to play what and why. Our branch lets the students try out all the instruments, and then they get to pick 2 or 3 as their favorite, write them down, and give the sheet to their band director who gets the final pick. Ultimately, we believe that anyone can play anything they want to. The parents and students are made aware that they may not get to play what they want. Sax and trumpet are still huge. Trombone is threatening to be the most popular. And as always, there's still a gender divide between brass instruments for boys and woodwinds and flutes, woodwinds like flute and clarinet for girls. I'm happy that this is how we decided to do it, since it's open and honest. However, I have attached a document that some of our other store branches use as a guide to determine things like if a student has, quote, tuba playing lips. This document made me and my coworkers very uncomfortable, since we believe that anyone can play anything, so we don't use this at all. It was a big topic of debate within the company back in December. Obviously, this may not be good podcast material. Wrong. And I would appreciate it if you didn't mention the company name on the document if you use it in the podcast. I'm just happy to weigh in on something in my wheelhouse. Love the podcast. And Patrick, no, please know that it's never too late to start saxophone. It's unbelievably easy for an adult to walk in and rent a saxophone, and I think he would have a great time. All right, I'm going to send this over.
Important thing about the sax, though, very loud.
Incredibly.
Like,
kids love it.
I own a home.
Yeah.
Do whatever the hell I want.
Also,
that's right.
Volume control is one of the things that you should try to learn early, because it'll make your embouchure much better. It's very hard to do. And people like kind of
what?
You'll figure it out.
It's the shape of your mouth basically around the.
That's great.
Yeah.
But MK plays saxophone. there is no like, oh man, it's just really unobtrusive. That's just
there is a lower limit on certain instruments for sure, but you can get softer.
Let's also just make note of Rob can spend God knows how much money on his cyberpunk server architecture. Oh, but his partner dares to play the saxophone. Well, we got it's a little too loud.
Hold on. The Nos just sits there quietly serving up just hours of fun and entertainment and like
does anyone know how that device works other than you
in the world?
Look, I'm happy to teach. I'm like begging. I'm like, you don't have to use Spotify. And MK's like, Spotify just works. And I'm like, what do you mean? So does this universal remote.
Jesus, that's an LCD on it.
Yeah.
And believe me, that LCD makes it easier to use than other universal remotes. You can just page through all the commands available in case they don't map onto the remote itself. You can just use this LCD to scan through the exact code you want to enter. It's great. It's not hard at all.
Recommend beginner instruments using 3 simple steps. 1. View each student's teeth, chin, and lips. 2. Based on the student's physical features, assign 3 numbers using the examples below. 3. Use the corresponding numbers below to recommend an instrument. Teeth, 1 or 2. 1 equals uneven, 1 equals even, 2 equals uneven. Chin, 3. 3 equals large, round or square, 4 equals pointed shape. Lips, 5 equals full or large, 6 equals medium, 7 equals thin. And then under that, there's images of each of these things as if
this physiognomy shit rules.
Dude, this is wild. I can't wait to get my brain trepanated so that I can play clarinet better. Then it's a list of, like, if you assigned 1, 3, and 5, that's trombone, euphonium, or tuba. If you assigned 2, 4, 5, that's clarinet or saxophone. If you got uneven teeth, it looks to me like you're playing clarinet. I guess if you have even teeth, pointed chin, and thin lips, that's clarinet, or sorry, medium lips, that's clarinet or flute. But otherwise, if you have uneven teeth, you're getting that clarinet recommended to you. Helpful things to consider. There's a huge list here. Flute, straight/even teeth, no overbites, capital N, capital O.
No.
Medium to full lips, bottom lip cushion, quote unquote. God. Clarinet, feel/make flat chin. What do you mean make flat chin? You can't just make a chin different. Saxophone, same as clarinet, but can have uneven teeth. Motherfucker, you put clarinet in on all the uneven teeth. That doesn't add up to your own thing. Anyway, this is a nightmare document.
Well, it's interesting because, like, I feel like, why not be in a world where you let the kid try what they want, and if it's not working out, things like this where it's like, hey, actually the structure of your face and your jaw can influence or make things more challenging than they should be. Like, you're playing this instrument on hard mode, and it's like, if you want to keep trying, we'll find ways to try and mitigate it. But you are playing it's going to be harder for you just because that's the way the genetic dice roll for you. But like, there's a way to like pitch that where it's like to explain to a kid why they're struggling, as opposed to motherfucker, like do not get near that thing.
Your chin is too pointed for clarinet.
Yeah, this feels like too specific to be actually like. This feels like they're considering like. If you're gonna do this for the rest of your life, you can't have these features, or it's not gonna work on like the higher. You're not gonna get into the symphony, the local like orchestra, the fucking Boston whatever.
Right,
if
like
you
Philharmonic or whatever.
Yeah, you're not gonna get in if these are like, and it's like. This is fucking elementary school, my guy. Like, you just let them try the thing they want to try. Like, oh god, like
they're kids.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not like trying to map out their music career.
Right, right. That's what this feels like. It's like so specific that it feels like it's also, less even about like it'll be hard for them to do. It's like, oh, at higher levels, you're just not going to get a good sound out of that instrument because of XYZ.
90% of these kids are never going to touch this again.
Yeah. Like,
also, it's just like, sorry, Django, only 5 fingers can play the guitar. It's like
God.
People will, I guarantee you, what's going to be the controlling factor in someone's like eventual like achievement in an instrument, probably not like their chin pointiness. Like someone will figure out like, I'll learn how to accommodate this and make the sound good.
Right. One of my favorite ones on this list is for trumpet. Check 3 fingers of right hand for dexterity. And it's like, all right, the knife comes out. It's time to do the knife game. We got to see. Can you hold still? Can you move them? What's going on? Thank you for writing in and sharing us this terrible document. God. Congrats on having the only ethical music store here, because you just tell people to let them play their fucking instruments, you know?
Yeah, that system sounded great.
God. Sorry, I have too many things. Oh, here we go. A band director's thoughts on instrument try-ons. This is from Paul.
Please, Paul.
Let's see what we got here from Paul. Love the pod. After hearing episode 413 and 414 of Waypoint Radio, I wanted to write in and offer some perspective from a former middle school band director and a current music education graduate student about instrument try-ons and recruitment for band. Band and its role in instrumental musical education is a research interest of mine, so I apologize in advance for the length of the email. When I did recruitment for my beginning bands, I wanted to create an experience like Cado described. Cado, can you remind us what your experience was like?
It was essentially like everyone tried every like mouthpiece to see what it felt like.
Gotcha.
And he did like the teacher described what they would be doing. Like, for example, percussion is like, yeah, obviously you're hitting the big drum, but you're also gonna have to learn how to play marimbas,
right?
Other like there's a variety of things you do, and so like that was it. Yeah.
Since we started band in 5th grade, I would invite all the 4th graders to visit one of my older bands who would prepare a presentation for the 4th grade. We would play a piece we knew well, and I would recruit volunteers from each instrument section to talk about their instrument and demonstrate what it sounds like. Typically, about 2 weeks after that recruitment concert, I would have instrument try-ons for the 4th graders so they could learn what instruments might be a good fit for them and what instruments might be more challenging. Every director I know thinks about what instruments the band needs, so we try to encourage kids to play certain instruments so that we can get a good balance of instruments. When considering the instrumentation of the band, I tried to focus on what students do well. So, for example, if somebody wanted to play percussion, but they are much better at trombone, I would emphasize how great they were on trombone, how the band needs good trombone players, etc. I do think being honest about what the band needs and what kids are good at is the best way to go about this. Overall, my philosophy was to let students play what they want. I just wanted to let them know what they could be good at and to consider some less popular options like the trombone if they showed some inclination towards it. Getting some different stories here on how important and popular the trombone is. Over here in Paul's neck of the woods, trombone not popular, but in that previous email, the trombone was going through the roof.
Where's my meme image of like the most popular instruments in each state?
Yeah. Band music these days is more flexible than it was in the past, so instrumentation is less critical. And I always felt it would have been I would have better retention if students actually got to choose what they play.
Right.
I play the trumpet professionally, but when I was in school, it was suggested that I play baritone because I had thicker lips, which frustrated me to no end. I never used physical characteristics as a reason to play or not play an instrument unless there were some limitations caused by youth, such as a 5th grader's hands being too small to reach the keys on a saxophone. Usually the suggestion in that case is to play clarinet for a year, and then when they get bigger, they can switch to saxophone when their hands can reach the keys without strain. There's research from the 1980s that suggests physical characteristics make no difference in playing ability. The only way to determine what instrument student can play is to have them try it and find out. So, how are future music educators taught about recruitment these days? I'm happy to say, at least where I'm currently studying, they are taught to think about instrumentation, but that ultimately the student should choose what they want to play. The instrument try-ons is an opportunity for students to make an informed decision about what they want to play in band and orchestra, and it gives the director information they can use if they need to ask students to consider a second choice for the sake of the band's instrumentation. Hopefully that was a useful explanation. Best, Paul.
I also like
things are in a better place.
Yeah, I also liked the ranking one that was before that was like, hey, pick 3 that you want to play. Yeah. And then at least you even if it's your third, it's the third one you picked, right?
Yeah.
Like you've expressed some agency over the process, even if even if like ultimately what they end up doing is like looking at all the numbers and being like, all right, how do we game this to like get it to where we want? Like quite literally, like a huge part of the reason I reacted so negatively was because of the way the information was like given to me. Like there are like you could still achieve the same result of like, we think maybe this person will have a better time with this, but the result was I just didn't play music because fuck you. And so I like hearing things like that where it's, you know, they find a way to kind of nudge people in other directions in ways that make it feel like the person themselves is empowered to do so. Because yeah, I mean that is like the irritation that stemmed out of me, and it sounds like it's also the thing that has stemmed out of a lot of people of a similar age, was like just being told no, or there's something wrong, imply that there's something wrong with you that was out of your control, like had nothing to do with your talent or effort. It was just, damn, you got some fat fingers, Patrick.
Yeah. I do want to read this last one here from Ryan in Houston. This last school band one. I have one more general email after that. One more food bucket actually email after that. But Ryan writes in and says, "Hello, all. Let me start by saying thank you for the podcast. It puts me in that Good Friday mood as I close out the day and start the weekend. I hope a Tuesday pod does the same." The discussion of telling kids what they should play an instrument other than their choice made me think back to my own middle school orchestra. We had a teacher try to get some students to switch, but for the most part, we did not want to. For that year, we had 13 stand-up bass players, 4 cellos, maybe, a dozen violas, and around 20 violins. I turned out not to be very musically inclined, but I do recall parents talking about how overpowering the basses were during our performances. I just love the idea of just 13 upright basses. Just so much louder than... Also, I don't know why I just jumped to the opening music from There Will Be Blood, but in my mind, that's what these 15-year-olds or whatever are doing. All right, here's the question bucket one. This comes in from Dan. Dan says, "Dear Waypoint team, I'm a big fan of all you do, but especially food discussions. Here is my question. Have you ever taught yourself to like a food that you did not enjoy, and how? How did you do it? For context, I'm currently trying to do this with bananas. For as long as I can remember, I have had an aversion to bananas. I remember in college struggling to even be at the same table when someone else ate a banana. But I also know that bananas are incredibly healthy. I decided to do this a few weeks ago as I became a parent, figuring that the fatigue of not sleeping would help me overcome the initial hesitancy. So for the first time ever, I bought bananas. First, I cut a small piece and put it into an ice cream shake and drank it hesitantly. Not a suitable approach if the goal is healthy. My second...
Also hiding it.
Yeah. My second step has been to take my regular treat, granola and yogurt, and replace the yogurt with a blended combination of almond milk, banana, sweet potato, and peanut butter. I'd read about sweet potato lattes for inspiration. My partner, who has not bought a banana in the 8 years we have lived together, thought this combination was disgusting. But upon trying it, 3 days of resistance, I agreed that it is good and confirmed that I put enough banana that it actually tastes like banana. So now I have been eating this banana-based yogurt alternative with my granola daily for over a week. I'm convinced that banana tastes all right. What should my next step be? I don't know that I'm ready to put a banana in my mouth. It's a smell and texture thing too. Should I try a frozen one first? Am I good to stop here since I'm eating banana daily? But really, I want to know, have you taught yourself to like a food? If so, how? If not, how would you, and how would you do it? Thanks, Dan from Indiana.
Why do they have to take the next step? I feel like you've done like
you're getting your banana.
I at some point
potassium.
Right. I fell off milk, like just drinking milk. Like doesn't revolt me, but I don't enjoy doing it. But like understood that like, hey, don't walk away from milk. And so I just, try and get as much of that and put milk into different things and like, work that back into the diet. But like I don't beat myself up because I don't sit down in the morning and like have a tall glass of milk.
I feel like if you're determined you want to make that next step,
I guess that's my question. Like if you want to do it, then I guess there are steps to doing it. But if all you want to do is accomplish the dietary,
I would say the
additive.
first step is to probably just juice up how much banana is in that, make it more banana, or go back to initial like a banana shake or a banana like a heavy protein shake with a lot of banana in it to really make sure you like the taste, get that taste there. And then I would start cutting it up into little slices and having it in like a mixed fruit salad. Do you know what I mean?
A salad or like a sandwich, like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with bananas, like very common.
Good. He already does the peanut butter with it in this yogurt, so that's already a taste blend you like.
Or maybe like drop a few little chunks into the yogurt, like small bits to kind of start introducing it alongside
the texture a little bit. Yeah. That's smart. I like that. I'm trying to think. There's lots of stuff. I grew up a very picky eater, and I've broadened out a ton over as an adult. I mean, that's just normal.
Were you naturally picky, or like I started as a picky eater because my mom, what she can make are great, and I still enjoy the meals that she makes to this day that are like her chicken parmesan is better than any chicken parmesan I have at a restaurant. But her range, it is self-admitted. You know, she's like has apologized. She's like, I'm sorry. That your limited palate was the result of just like she had a handful of things she could make and was confident in. She's a really picky eater herself, and so that like made it difficult as a mom.
No,
like,
I was
making
a brat
lot of the meals
comparatively.
Okay.
No, right. my mom's a great cook. My stepdad's a great cook. My stepmom, my dad and his wife, my stepmom on that side is also fantastic. So it's like plenty of food around. In fact, it was a lot of them being like, "Don't you want to try blank? Why don't you want to try blank?" And me being like, "Meh, I don't like how it looks. I don't like how it."
That's a hard approach. Like I've been, I got Jessica's is 5, pretty soon, and it's like so fascinating to have the young kid who anything you put in their mouth, they're like, "That, love it." You're letting me. Usually, you're telling me don't put things in my mouth. I can put that in my mouth, and occasionally we'll, like earlier, like this week, she like had an M&M and it wasn't sure, put it in, and she, when she eats candy, the rare times that she does, like she laughs because it's almost like she pulled she's like, ha ha, like well, look at this shit in my mouth. Like she had like pizza for the first time last night, and my oldest, who used to love pizza when she was younger, like you have to like retrain it because the aesthetic stuff kicks in, and kids get so wedded to the aesthetic of a thing, and then you have to find ways to because you can't you can force it. There are like parenting things. They're like, well, just this is what I made you, and you're just gonna go hungry, no other dinner. Yeah. And there are times where like we put our foot down in different ways, especially if it's just like I want something else, but I will eat this. But it was just such a funny moment last night where she just sauce put her off, and it was just the sauce that was like that you could see. She was totally fine with the sauce as part of the pizza, but it was like a piece of the pizza where the sauce kind of came out the end. And like last night, she said, "Can you cut it off?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. As long as you eat the pizza, I'm fine." And then out of nowhere, we're sitting and watching an episode of Bluey, high class Disney Plus show. It's a BBC show, but really, really good kid show, very good for adults. And she looks at me and she goes, "What about this sauce?" I was like, "Oh, is there some on your plate?" She's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Is it good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's great." And she goes, "Okay." Puts her finger in it, tastes it. She's like, "Wow, I like the sauce. I'm gonna eat it more often." And I was like, "Okay." And then then it's over. Like now, like I don't have to cut the sauce off the pizza anymore. But it's weird. For me, it was green, the color green. So
spinach was a big one for me.
So salad stuff was like noodles, right? Or like pesto sauce.
Pesto sauces, yeah. Sure.
I would tell like my wife, like I just actually don't like pesto. And I know in my heart of hearts, like that's not true. I don't know if I like or dislike pesto. I just don't like the look of it and just avoid it and always get any other color sauce. And then, but she loves pesto and also loves like, noodles made of like spinach and things like that, and like healthier like noodle options. And she would just over time just like trick me into it. Like would just like things would be in there and she'd be like, ha. I was like, oh yeah, I guess I do like pesto. And so that took a number of years, but eventually now I'm like pro green noodle, pro pesto, but it was just sort of like incrementally over time. And then sometimes hiding things that she knew, okay, I won't fully change the meal. I'll just put a little bit of something in here. And he trusts me because he knows I'm a good cook. And then I would come out the other end, like kind of hoodwinked into enjoying something that I didn't realize I did. But that's like the biggest one, other than just like growing up and like learning to like sushi, because that was never part of my diet.
Right.
Yeah.
Seafood was a big one for me.
Yeah.
in general. And then, but there's very little. You can take me to any seafood restaurant, and I would find a bevy of things that I absolutely adore at this point. So,
Right.
But that was a lot of. I mean, for me, it wasn't about being a good or bad cook. It was about what I was exposed to and when, and then what I got sick of. I had like a period as a teenager where I was like, I don't want to eat pasta. Like I ate so much pasta when like I was young, just like, spaghetti, various forms of pasta dishes 3 or 4 times a week. Like that was like for some period there. It was like constant. And I just like got so sick of it that I stopped. I like really disliked it. It was like an and like when I say pasta dishes, what I'm talking about is like pasta and red sauce. Do you know what I mean? And red sauce or whatever. I was like, I don't want to have it. Like it's overwhelming to me. I just don't. And then I stopped for like 4 or 5 years basically, and then came back to it. And of course, I'm back on board pasta now and have been for 16 years, but like,
well, and there's also like, there's so many meals that are just, when you're growing up, are just utility. Parents just need to serve this up. And like, that was where pasta got sent in a lot of times for me, where it's like, look, we got time to boil water, heat up some Prego, and just dump that shit on this pasta. That's dinner. If you don't like it, tough. And
nicer service at my household, but still.
But like for me, it was just like, it was a very like, yep, that's spaghetti and meat sauce, spaghetti and tomato sauce. And now like when that pops up on the menu, often it's probably maybe just a little bit nicer, right? Like it's okay, well the sauce is fresh made, and so it's going to be like same fundamental thing, but also now it's a little bit like, dressed up, and there's a little bit more nuance to it. But I think so much of this is also just palate changing as well.
It's huge.
Where just entire like
something like olives, which I like, couldn't stand the smell of a 15 years ago. Yeah, gimme, please.
Yeah, dude, like
jar. You got to take them away from me.
The big thing for me was, and this is gonna sound weird because this is pretty universally liked, mango. And the reason being,
I can see it.
Because my family loved to eat them super fucking green. And I never understood how you make, like,
the fuck?
It's a thing. It's a thing. If you prepare it a certain way, apparently it's good. I've been
Isn't
told.
It fibrous as hell?
Huh?
Isn't it super like tough when it's green?
Yeah, it's much tougher. It's not as soft, and it's it's a little more. It's very tart. And like I just never liked it, and my whole family was like all about that green mango. And so for the longest time, I did not understand where the like flavoring of mango flavor shit tastes great. I was like, I love that. Can I get a mango that tastes like that? And it was never in our household when I was a kid. So I was like, I just don't like real mango, I guess. And I never tried a mango until like not that long ago, like 4 years ago. I was like, oh wait. This is a ripe mango? This is fucking delicious. I understand now why people are like, mango's great. It's sweet. Oh, mango's actually sweet. Yeah. Amazing. So I would say just also check back in. Check back in on especially on those childhood ones. Just like try it. Every like other year or so, I get a little goat cheese. Let's just like put it on something. Yeah, just give it a shot, just in case.
Cheeses in general, I think, is a big one as you grow older in terms of just trying new cheeses and being like, yeah, this is all real good.
Right.
Like I don't have to just
like
be
beers.
The like 4 cheeses I like. Beers. Yeah, I think alcohol in general is a big
also
one.
moving, right? Like the biggest thing that happened to the like getting into like fish and other things. Like I moved to San Francisco. Like I left the Midwest. I left all the same like friends I'd had my entire life, my family that I was always around. Like I built a new life out there and with brand new people with totally different cultural.
Someone says, "Hey, do
habits.
you want to go get curry? If you've never had curry before, you don't want to be like, no."
Yeah, right.
So you say yes.
And you just kind of embrace it, right? It's just like, okay, I'll go find out if I like or dislike this thing. And like that was like, so yeah, moving to San Francisco at 22 was like the biggest possible pivot point in that was just being surrounded by different things.
Well, I think something else that changed too is I remember when it was like seafood night when I was growing up, the fish always smelled fishy. And that is not a good sign. Like generally, like if it smells too much like fish, that's actually like, it's a little past its prime. Not necessarily a deal breaker, but if it's really intense, that is probably not the freshest fish in the world. That is just how seafood tasted, like smelled when I was growing up. Like when you got it in the supermarket, in Indiana, like that's just kind of how it was. When I go back now, it is kind of striking the degree to which the quality of the stuff you find at supermarkets is also just increased in the last like 15, 20 years. Like it seems like they're aiming a little higher. And so in part, I think because everyone has been trained by shit like cooking shows and such, or food blogs to like know what to look for and expect, and supermarkets aim for that. But it was much more bare bones, I think, when my dad was out like shopping at Jewel Osco, in the 80s and 90s, where it was just like, look, you want some perch? Here's some perch. It's reasonably fresh. Your family will love it. Put a lot of tartar sauce and lemon on it. They won't even notice anything's wrong. And now it's kind of like, oh, you want to make sushi at home? You can just run down there and you can do that. The last thing I'll say too, you know who gave some terrible food advice? The Ninja Turtles. No, pizza's good. I'm not calling them out on that. But the whole like anchovies are amazing.
Anchovies, yeah.
Like get behind the anchovy, and if you're scared of the anchovy, just give it.
Tell you, I'm still a little scared of the anchovy.
I'm not there yet.
No. I would like to have my mind open to the anchovy. My father loves anchovies, and there's like here's a difference in like when I talk about my time as a like broke student, and like honestly that continued for well into my 20s. I lived on ramen and like eggs and pasta, and my dad has all of those things, and also when he tells me his version of that, it's also anchovies. He would live on anchovies because they were cheap and added protein and like a little bit of like fish flavor and a little bit of like that meatier kick, not meaty, but you know what I mean.
That umami, like
it's umami, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you just like mince up an anchovy and put it in the sauce, like boom. Sorry, like a mural here. Pow!
Yeah.
Flavor.
Chef Rob is here, everybody. And I should try it.
I love Caesar dressing is my favorite salad dressing.
Yeah.
So like I'm like, I'm already, even though I say I'm like you, Austin, like like that has been a bridge too far my entire life. I'm actively almost on a daily basis
What if we become anchovy boys? What if we try it?
Okay, mark that. All right. Next live stream, we're gonna.
I'll just be standing there like holding it in my hand, like come on out. Come on out. It's okay. It's okay.
Rob.
Look, they're so good.
How different would you say anchovies are to like sardines? Are they basically the same thing? I always kind of assumed they were very similar.
They're real similar.
Okay.
I would say the anchovy is like more concentrated, and I think that's usually about what they like. A lot of times when you're buying like anchovy fillets, they're being like intensely seasoned and and salted.
I'm now thinking my dad might have been sardines and not anchovies. I can't remember which small canned fish.
I love sardines, and I would like college. The thing was get the sardines that were like sitting in the tomato sauce. And then you basically just open that and pour that over a rice dish, and you mix in the sauce into the rice, and it was fucking delicious. That was dinner, baby.
I don't know what my fucking problem is because it's fish. I eat bigger fish.
Yeah, you don't even have to worry about the bones.
Maybe you're just too much of an apex predator for little sardines.
I don't eat the bones. See, you just made it worse, Cado.
They're soft. They're kind of. They're not spiny, right? They're like
the bones are so small you don't even notice.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Is you don't have to worry. You can just, down the whole thing.
It sounds like you've made Austin worry.
I'm sorry.
Unfortunately,
you got me off the train. I was so close. I was so ready, and then you were like, "You don't even worry about the bones. Don't even worry about it." Yeah, there's a dog in that yard, but it don't bite. Like, all right,
often.
I don't. Well, good episode. That's a podcast, I think. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back later this week. We got some streams happening this week. Also, Patrick's going to be out. Patrick's going to be out on vacation, which is exciting.
Yeah. Before, let me just close the loop because I won't remember it in 2 weeks when I'm back. But I finished Death's Door over the weekend. Decided I really like that game. I think, as I alluded to earlier, mentioning the Ascent, I think that game also suffers from a lot of the critical reception was people having finished that game, in which you have full use of the mechanics and the magic and the world, and I think that game really feels really great once you've got, the hook shot on, like, the game just opens up in a way that, like, the moment you waltz into an area, even if it's old, you realize, like, oh shit, I've got so many things I could be doing right now. And I just wish that happened so much sooner. I really wish the hook shot had not been kept as a late game addition. That I wish that had been, like, from the start, like, hey, one of the things that you've got in this game is a hook shot. Because it also incorporates into your combat, and it doesn't have a cooldown. So you can hook shot onto an enemy and attack them as you're being forwarded to them. It's just super cool. Once you get a magic upgrade, like for the arrow, it does damage over time. So it's like I'll be shooting dudes from across the room, letting them get hit by fire while I'm grappling over to another set of enemies. It's just great.
That
and
sounds
it makes
great.
Makes the world exploration so much more enjoyable. And so I really recommend it if you're kind of like me and Austin, where you were sort of, I don't know, like, felt bad that you didn't like it more. I really do think it opens up in that second half. I ended up not doing. There's a whole end game after the ending to get a secret ending that requires an enormous amount of busy work. I looked into what it was, and it was like, hey, do you want to collect all the life seeds in the game? I was like, not really. So I just didn't do it, and I just looked up the ending, which I don't want to say too much about, but if you end up not wanting to do the busy work, even explaining why it's cool would be a sort
of a spoiler. Is there like an article explaining why it's cool?
Probably. I'm sure if you, one of the first Google results for like anything you look up for is like Death's Door ending explained, and there'll be a video. You might need that to get the explanation for why it's interesting, Austin. But it is really cool. I'm really glad that I watched it, but I'm also not upset that I didn't go down the path to actually.
I'm so mad that that is the model that here's what I'm actually going to say. There is a Vanity Fair article called "The Green Knight's Ending Explained," and it's not an explainer. It's an interview with the director about various choices that he made in the film that are fascinating and really interesting. But
it's not an explainer.
I mean, it does. It
will explain a lot.
It will, and it is set up in the like FAQ. Set, so what is the ending trying to say? Why should we make what should we make of all the color in the film? What's with the fox, etc. And like it does form it that way, but it's filled with direct quotes from the director that are fascinating and really great. And it's upsetting that you have to market that article as "The Green Knight's Ending Explained" instead of anything else, but if you're going to do an explainer like that, it's a good one. People who saw that movie should go read that article. It's great. Anyway, have a good vacation. Yeah, Rob.
Other things coming up too. Finally, the Michael Mann project begins. So I think this week we are going to be recording a show on Michael Mann's Thief.
Wow.
We're going to get Alex Navarro, who signed up for this, I think 2 years ago when he and I first discussed it while waiting for a segment to start for Save Point. And we'll have Dia with us as well to talk about Michael Mann's first feature film starring James Caan and Tuesday Weld, Thief. It's really good. I think it's on
no
Criterion
time
right now.
For me leaving it to be like, and by the way, also we're announcing Michael Mann Week.
I just want to say that like calling it the Michael Mann Project makes it sound like a prog rock like super group. Which sure, absolutely.
Everyone bring your instrument to the podcast too.
Yep, yep. We'll live score Thief.
My instrument is critical analysis.
True enough. We'll also be doing Wildermyth today on Tuesday for Tactical Tuesdays, and we're trying to get some Hell Let Loose in sometime this week, maybe, hopefully, maybe next. We'll see how it goes.
You guys want to see us die in trenches for hours?
Oh, can't wait! Honestly can't wait for people to see us.
It's gonna be really dynamic.
Up to. Yeah.
Like just like Cado, like just lying in tall grass, and like it'll be great.
All right. On that note, we'll be back later this week. Look forward to it. I'll see you on Friday. We'll see you on any of these streams. As always, you can support us by going to waypointplus.com. Follow us, twitter.com/waypoint, twitch.tv/waypoint, youtube.com/waypointvice. Follow me on Twitter at Austin_Walker. You can follow Cado at
A_Cado_appears.
Rob
At Rob Zachney.
Patrick on vacation.
At Patrick Klopik.
And as always, shout out to Bowen for letting us use the track Miss You off the EP Pale Machine. Find out more about that at waypoint.zone/BOEN. Until later this week, and actually beyond that too. Fuck capitalism. Go home. Peace.